Thrifting, upcycling, educating yourself, looking at fashion history, tapping into different eras and making it your own. I don't think that that will ever go out of style. Welcome back to my channel. If you have just arrived here, my name is Faye. I am a sustainable stylist. I work with the Salvation Army or Salvo stores here in Australia, and that is an honor and a pleasure. I have the best gig in the world, and I love thrifting so much that I wrote a book about it. It's called Opshopulence: How to Make Thrift Store Look Like Couture and Save the Planet, because I truly believe that secondhand can be first class. It's all about switching our mindset. Looking at all of the shows overseas, the fashion weeks, and then we had Fashion Week here in Sydney in Australia, it got me really thinking about trends and the concept of trends. And it's a funny thing, right? Because I've said this before, but I really feel like the whole concept still is pushing that narrative of buy new. You need this to look beautiful, you need this to fit in, you need this to be accepted, which, as we know, is so far from the truth. I think the real trends are the trends that you make your own, your personal style. And for me, thrifting has really been such a catalyst for that. Don't get me wrong, I love looking at all of the collections. I'm super inspired by high-end designers. I look to amazing labels like Vivienne Westwood, RIP, and McQueen, RIP, and Maison Margiela, Galliano. There are so many incredible artisans doing really phenomenal things with clothing, with fabrications. So they're a huge influence for me, but the reason I look at them is so that I can really dive into my own creativity and make things my own. So today I wanted to talk about, I guess, the trends that I've been noticing that really aren't trends at all. I'd like to think of them as timeless go-tos that really can inspire your personal style. So the first timeless trend or trend that I want to touch on is really not a trend at all. It's a lifestyle. It's certainly a lifestyle for me, and that is thrifting. And when I started my work in the space over a decade ago, a lot of people thought the whole concept of like thrifting and elevating it and just was like, what is that? Like, what do you do? It's so strange. And to be honest, I was really just finding my way with it too. But to see now that thrift is such a part of the collective, or op shopping, or charity shopping, whatever you may call it, wherever you are in the world, or fripe if you're French, I think it's really in the vernacular now. Like, we're talking about it, people are thrifting. Firstly, because I think the collective has finally realized that thrifting is a total vibe. You can save a stack of cash, which I think, given the way the economy in the world is now, people are definitely becoming more conscious of that. But also people are really discovering that it's such a valuable thing to do for people, for community, for the planet. So we're diverting textile waste, we're supporting community members who are doing it tough, particularly for an organization like the Salvation Army or Salvo stores. Everything that you buy from that store, that money goes straight into supporting all of the community programs that the Salvation Army has. So it's supporting things like people going through domestic violence, drug and alcohol addiction, homelessness, natural disasters. So those clothes really are like agents for change. I talk about this a lot in my book. We can't just keep consuming the way that we are. The fashion industry is incredibly destructive, and also the whole other thing that is very important to be aware of is how fast fashion and the more kind of furious pace of fashion quite often is not very supportive of the people who are making those clothes. So once you kind of see that and you sort of get to the bottom of what that really means, which I do talk a lot about in my book, but if you're not sure, have a look at sites like Fashion Revolution, watch the True Cost movie, and that will just give you a snapshot of what these people go through. The people that are making our clothes, making inexpensive or cheap clothes, they're really the ones that end up paying. And I saw a crazy statistic the other day that apparently we have enough clothes already in existence to clothe the next 6 generations. Like, just let that sink in for a second. It's wild, right? So when there's that many clothes in existence, why are we still making so many new ones? So for me, thrifting is not just a trend that people are excited about now, it's absolutely the way that we need to go. A little mantra I always like to say to myself is stop before you shop, especially new, and just think about, do I really need it? Could I thrift it? Could I upcycle it? Could I borrow it or rent it? There are so many different options. But for me, thrifting is a great way to save money. It's a great way to save the planet, and it's just a no-brainer. The second timeless trend that's not really a trend at all is upcycling, DIY, having a crafternoon. I've seen all over Street Style, overseas and here in Australia, people are really getting into upcycling their clothes. Denim is being customized and sliced and diced and painted and patched work. You know, knitting is a vibe, crochet, bedazzling things. And you can see a lot of those pieces on the high street or in fast fashion. But in all honesty, it's pretty easy to do it yourself. I can't sew. I can hand stitch. My glue gun is my best friend. I definitely will learn to sew because I would love to make my own garments. But I have a fantastic dressmaker for now. I take my crazy ideas to her. I source everything from a thrift store, and it's one of a kind. A couple of pieces that I've just done recently, I found 2 beautiful blazers on the discount rack, both natural fibers, one 100% bamboo, the other 100% wool, and they were $5 each. And I had her slice them up the middle and put them together to create a completely new jacket. The denim maxi skirt trend is huge. I've seen it everywhere. I loved the Maison Margiela one. I can't afford that. So I was like, let's just get some jeans from a thrift store. They cost me $2 to $5 each. And I had my dressmaker slice them up and create this incredible maxi skirt that I love wearing. She did a really cute little, almost like fishtail effect on the bottom. And people comment on it all the time. And I love telling them that I sourced it from a thrift store, I used pieces that were already in existence, and then I had my trusty dressmaker upcycle it. So think about those things before you tap into these trends. Think about, could you find it in a thrift store, or could you upcycle it yourself? And where we are right now, YouTube is the most incredible source to learn things. So just type in how to DIY this, or any kind of trend that you'd like to emulate. I'm sure you can find a video of some genius who is showing you how to upcycle it, how to do it yourself. And this is something that, our grandparents were doing just instinctively. My grandma taught me how to hand sew. She didn't just go to H&M and buy a new t-shirt. If she got a hole in it, she would fix it. She would darn it, as she said. So all of these kind of more timeless trends, mending our clothes, this is all becoming apparent and becoming a big part of the narrative and becoming part of the collective now, which is fantastic, but also essential. And the last trend, timeless trend that's not really a trend at all, is tapping into different eras to ignite your personal style. So looking at Y2K, looking at the 70s, looking at the 50s, looking at the 20s. Some of my favorite people that I follow here on YouTube or on Instagram dress from completely different eras. And I think it's so fantastic. And whilst I couldn't do head to toe, I love taking elements from different eras. The trench coat I'm wearing today definitely has a 70s vibe. And then, wearing this little pendant sort of gives me that 70s nod as well. Then the slip dress is kind of leaning into the 90s trend. And I find the more that I educate myself, the more that influences the way that I dress, and these really interesting accents that I can add to things. I'm super drawn to the Victorian and Edwardian era. I love corsets. I love leg of mutton sleeves. I love full skirts and lace-up boots. And again, whilst I couldn't rock a full head to toe look from a different era, I love injecting elements of it. So I will wear a 90s slip and then I'll put some great lace-up boots with it, or I'll wear those lace-up boots with a men's suit. Just adding those little accents really puts a stamp on the way that you look individually, and no one else will have that, particularly if you're sourcing pieces from a secondhand store or pre-loved or from a thrift store. Thrifting has been a total game changer for my personal style. I've really noticed it, especially over the last 3 or 4 years as I've been diving more into fashion history. I'm a total geek for that stuff. But the more that I learn, the more that I get excited about certain elements, and I think, oh, wow, maybe I could add that into a pair of jeans, or maybe I could switch out a jacket by doing something different to it, or adding a little cravat. Those accents of masculine meets feminine, I think, just really sets you apart from the style crowd. So there you go, trends that are not really trends at all. They're certainly aspects and factors that we can use to pave our own way, to have a really unique, mindful and beautiful personal style. Thrifting, upcycling, educating yourself, looking at fashion history, tapping into different eras and making it your own. I don't think that will ever go out of style. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this useful. And really, don't be a slave to those trends. Don't get sucked into what the media tells you that you need to buy new, that you need this. You really don't. There's so many great ways, mindful ways, that you can still feel really current and cool, but do something that's much more supportive for yourself, for your back pocket, and of course, people and the planet. All right, guys, I'll see you soon for the next one. Mwah. Bye.